I never thought loneliness would become something I carried like extra weight, a heaviness I tried to hide under jokes and half-hearted confidence. But by 30, I'd gotten good at pretending I had everything under control. Steady job in IT, a decent apartment near Madison's Lakes, a gym membership I use twice a month. The usual checklist that says a guy is doing fine. Except most nights, when the city quieted down and the glow of my phone was the only light on my face, I felt like I was standing in an empty parking lot at 2 a.m., waiting for something that never showed. Dating apps, for me, were like grocery store trips when you're starving. You pick things you don't actually want just because you can't stand feeling empty. My past attempts were mostly awkward, forgettable, or short-lived. Nothing tragic, nothing special. Just the bland kind of disappointing that wears you down over time. So when I matched with Sophie, I assumed it would be more of the same. Her profile stopped me for reasons I couldn't fully explain. She had this genuine, warm smile. No filters, no exaggerated poses, just soft lighting and unpretentious confidence. Her photos showed paintings, messy studios, street murals she'd worked on. And her messages? Witty without trying too hard. Observant. Actually funny. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I had to entertain someone. I just talked. We spent 3 nights messaging about everything from art to the weird childhood foods our parents made. I told her I couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler. She sent a photo of herself exaggerated, gasping, and replied, "A tragedy. I'll forgive you eventually." On Thursday morning, she suggested meeting for drinks at a lakeside bar I'd heard good things about, a place that made headlines for its sunsets and craft cocktails. Finally, a date that didn't feel forced. If I had known what was waiting for me that night, I might have ignored her message. But back then, all I felt was hope, quiet, cautious, but real enough to make me say yes. By the time I parked near the lakeside bar, the sun had already dipped behind the water, leaving the sky bruised with shades of purple and dark blue. I checked my reflection in the window. Good enough, I figured, and started walking toward the entrance. The wooden patio lights were off. The neon bar sign wasn't lit. The entire place looked asleep. A handwritten sign hung crooked on the door. Closed for private renovation. No entry. I frowned. Sophie hadn't said anything about that. I pulled out my phone to text her when a message buzzed through before I typed a word. Sophie. "Hey, already at the second spot. Didn't realize the lakeside place was shut. Come to Harbor House Tavern. Shortcut behind the lake is faster." I'd heard of Harbor House. It was small but popular. And the shortcut she mentioned? Yeah, I knew it. A narrow dirt path that curved behind the lake and cut the walking time in half. I used it once years ago during a summer concert series. It was fine then, but that had been in daylight, with crowds moving around me. Still, I started walking toward the trail. The entrance sat between 2 leaning trees, their branches forming a kind of arch. Tonight, the path was pitch black. No lamps, no people, no sounds except the lake lapping softly against the shoreline. A whisper of wind pushed dry leaves across the dirt, and the silence felt unnaturally heavy, like even the air was holding its breath. Something pressed at the back of my mind. Not fear exactly, but a quiet alarm. My instinct nudged me, then nudged harder. My foot hovered at the edge of the trail, but I didn't step in. Instead, I stepped back. I typed Sophie, "Heading your way. Might be a few extra minutes." I didn't take the shortcut. I circled around the lake, using the well-lit main path, passing joggers and dog walkers, letting the city noise wrap around me like armor. As I approached Harbor House Tavern, something felt off again, a tension crawling beneath my ribs. I pushed open the door, scanning the room. Sophie wasn't there. At first I thought maybe I was early, or late, or just missing her in the crowd. Harbor House wasn't huge, but it had enough corners that someone could blend in if they wanted. I did a slow walk through the room, checking the high tops, the booths, even the patio out back. Nothing. I texted her. "Hey, I'm here. Where are you sitting?" The message delivered, but it never showed read. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Something in my chest tightened. Not heartbreak, but realization. That hollow feeling you get when you're standing on the wrong end of a bad joke. I refreshed her profile. It loaded, then flickered, then popped up with a blank gray circle. Unmatched. Just like that. Gone. I sat at the bar, staring at the empty spot where her picture should have been. My beer arrived, and I didn't even touch it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just missed something. Something big. The bartender, wiping down glasses, shot me a sympathetic look. Stood up. "Yeah," I said, though the word felt too simple for what was happening. He shrugged. "Happens. People suck. Want some fries on the house?" I almost said yes because fries fix everything, but my stomach wouldn't allow it. I left the beer untouched, tipped him anyway, and stepped outside. The night had grown heavy. Clouds swallowed the moon. Even the lake behind the buildings felt darker, quieter, too quiet. I looked down at my phone one more time. No new messages, no missed calls, nothing from Sophie, nothing from anyone. Walking back to my car, I passed the trail entrance again. I paused, staring into the black stretch of dirt and trees. It looked like the beginning of a horror movie, the kind where the audience yells at the screen while the character steps inside anyway. But I hadn't stepped inside. Something in me, call it instinct, call it fear, call it plain luck, had kept me from walking straight into the dark. And for the first time that night, I wondered if that hesitation had saved my life. 2 days passed before I told anyone what happened. It wasn't embarrassment, it was confusion. Ignoring someone after a date was common enough, but unmatched before the date? After directing me down a dark trail? That was something else. I finally mentioned it to my coworker Nate during lunch. He stopped mid-bite. "Dude, you should report that." "Report what? A date gone weird?" He shook his head. "No, the setup. People have been mugged near that trail." A thin chill crawled up my spine. Later that evening, still unsettled, I stopped by the local police station. The officer at the front desk took my story seriously, much more seriously than I expected. He asked detailed questions, typing steadily as I spoke, the messages I got, the sudden switch of location, how the bar had been closed, and especially the push to take the shortcut. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled. "You're the 4th report this month." I blinked. "4th?" "Same pattern," he said. "A woman, pretty, believable, friendly, arranges to meet someone. Final text always redirects them last minute to a second spot, always encourages taking the unlit trail. Men who took the shortcut were ambushed by 2 or 3 attackers hiding in the brush." My stomach twisted. Were they hurt? One guy needed stitches, another had a concussion. All got robbed. None recognized the woman's real identity. We think the profile photos are stolen. I swallowed hard. So the date was fake, and the bar being closed. "We're pretty sure that's intentional," the officer said. "Someone scouts the location and waits for the target." The room felt suddenly small, airless. He looked at me with something like approval. "You listen to your instincts. Most people push past the warning signs." Leaving the station, I sat in my car for a long moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to slow my breathing. Sophie wasn't just disinterested. She wasn't Sophie at all. I hadn't been stood up, I'd been bait, and I realized I was never meant to make it to that bar. For the next few weeks, I replayed the night in my head more than I cared to admit. Every little detail felt sharper now. The closed bar, the rush of texts, the way the shortcut swallowed sound like a mouth waiting to close. I thought about how close I'd come. A few steps into that trail, and the story might have had a very different ending. Maybe no ending at all. Friends told me I should feel lucky, and I did, in a distant, almost surreal way. But luck is a weird thing. When you survive something by accident, you don't just feel lucky. You feel shaken, and afterward you walk through the world a little quieter, more aware of its edges. I stopped using dating apps. Not out of fear, but because I finally understood how easily trust can be manipulated by a handful of well-timed messages and a couple of borrowed photos. Sometimes at night, I drive past the lake. Not on purpose, it's just a route I'm used to. And each time I glance at that trail, It still looks like nothing more than dirt and trees, peaceful even. But now I know better. Sometimes danger doesn't roar or glare. Sometimes it just waits. One evening, while sitting on my porch with a beer, I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey Marco, want to grab drinks sometime?" My pulse thudded, but the number wasn't local. The profile image was automatically generated. A bot, probably. Maybe. But the truth is, I didn't even care to find out. I blocked it immediately. Then I sat there, staring at the quiet street, grateful for a kind of calm I hadn't felt in a long time. Because I finally understood something important. Your instincts aren't inconveniences. They're warnings, lifelines. Sometimes the only thing standing between you and a story that ends differently. Trust your instincts, especially when something feels off. Your intuition is often responding to danger you can't yet see. In a world where strangers can wear convincing masks, protecting your safety is more important than avoiding awkwardness or seeming rude. Listen to your gut. Sometimes it's the only warning you'll get. I've lived in Phoenix long enough to know that the heat changes people. It sharpens tempers, slows brains, melts good decisions right out of your skin. But that summer, when temperatures hit 118 on a Tuesday and stayed there for a week straight, the whole city felt like it was walking around inside a giant hairdryer. Even the pigeons stopped pretending they cared about crumbs. I wasn't doing much better. 32, single, working in a tech support job I'd been promising myself I'd leave next quarter for the last 3 years. My social life had thinned down to work people I sort of liked and acquaintances I saw once every 7 months. So when my company announced a rooftop mixer, casual, drinks, networking, I told myself I should go. Not because I cared about networking, but because sitting in my apartment with a box fan humming like an old lawnmower felt pathetic even to me. Walking onto that rooftop felt like stepping into a heated skillet. The air burned my throat. People were huddled around misting fans like we were survivors rationing water in the desert. Music thumped from speakers fighting for their lives. I grabbed a drink, pretended to look comfortable, and scanned the crowd just to give my hands something to do. That's when I saw her. A woman standing alone at the far side of the bar, perfectly still in a way that didn't match the chaotic energy around her. Her dress was simple but elegant, dark hair pinned back just enough to reveal sharp cheekbones. She wasn't checking her phone, wasn't fidgeting, wasn't pretending to look around. She just stood there watching the room like she was waiting for a cue. She didn't look like she belonged to a company mixer. She looked like someone who had chosen the place deliberately, and not for the drinks. Before I could talk myself out of it, I walked toward her, telling myself this was what normal people did at social events. Even as a strange unease trickled down my spine, the heat pressing against me like a physical hand, I kept walking. I should have turned around, but I didn't. "Leo," she said before I even introduced myself. Her voice was smooth, almost uncomfortably calm compared to the overheated chaos around us. I blinked. "Yeah, have we met?" She smiled like she knew the punchline to a joke I hadn't heard yet. "Serena, I've seen you around. You work in IT, right?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "What company are you with?" "Startup near downtown," she replied. "Small team. You wouldn't know it." Whenever I asked follow-up questions, what she did there, what projects, who she worked with, her answers slid sideways like water over polished stone. "Oh, you know, tech things, boring stuff," she'd say with a dismissive wave. But she didn't feel bored. She felt deliberate, watching, calculating. We talked, or at least I tried to. Every time I mentioned something about myself, she already knew the ending. "You used to work at that insurance company, right? You grew up near Flagstaff. You always wear blue at work meetings." And then, "So, how's the gym on 24th? You still go?" My stomach tightened. I hadn't gone in 2 years. "How do you know that?" I laughed, trying to play it off. She shrugged. "I'm good at research." But her laugh didn't reach her eyes. They stayed still, glinting under the bar lights with a kind of focused hunger. I told myself I was overthinking. It was the heat, the beer, the loneliness, the rooftop that felt like a kiln. She was attractive, charming in her strange, intense way. And for reasons I still can't explain, I let the night keep going. By the time she suggested heading somewhere cooler, "Your place is close, right?" My instincts were whispering something I couldn't quite hear yet. But despite the unease, despite the odd details, despite the way she kept studying me like a blueprint, I drove her to my apartment. I told myself it was harmless. Adults go home together. Nothing unusual. I didn't know she'd been following me long before I ever said hello. My apartment was dark and cool compared to the rooftop, and for a minute, things felt normal, almost pleasant. We talked on the couch, soft music playing, Serena sitting too straight, too poised, like she couldn't fully relax no matter how much she pretended. But when she moved closer, I stepped back just enough for her to notice. The shift was small, but her eyes flickered. Something sharpened. Later, when she suggested seeing each other again tomorrow night, I tried to keep things polite. I had a good time, but I'm not really looking for something serious. Her smile froze. "I see," she said quietly. "You were catfishing me emotionally." "What? No, You pretended you wanted something real," she insisted, her voice trembling with fury she hadn't shown all night. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the counter. A simple, friendly text from my ex, checking in. Serena saw the name before I did. Her expression changed like someone flipping a switch. She went silent, completely still. I tried to redirect, to walk her toward the door, to keep things calm. "Let's call it a night, okay?" She didn't move. "You lied," she whispered. "All night. Pretending. Men like you. Always pretending." "Serena, I think you should go." "No," she said, stepping in front of the door. "You don't get to walk away." That was the first moment I felt fear. Actual fear. The kind that sharpens sounds and speeds up your heartbeat. She leaned closer, her breath shaky. "You think I don't know you? I've been watching you for months. I joined your photography group, I saw your old posts, I parked outside your building. You always leave your kitchen light on Mondays and Wednesdays." The room tilted. My stomach flipped. "What are you talking about?" Her voice cracked into something raw, wild. "I didn't spend months learning you just for you to throw me away." And then she stepped toward the kitchen drawer. I didn't register the knife at first. I just saw her arm lift, the metal catching the overhead light, the blade trembling in her grip. "Serena," I said, backing away slowly. "Put it down." "You don't get to tell me what to do now," she snapped, her voice pitching upward. "You played me. You pretended. You made me hope." I moved around the kitchen island to keep distance between us. She followed, tears mixing with streaks of melted makeup sliding down her cheeks like wax from a candle. "You deserve to sweat," she hissed. "Men like you deserve to sweat until they scream." Every instinct in my body lit up. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, but she lunged forward and slammed her palm onto the counter, blocking me. "You think you can call someone?" she snarled. "You think anyone will get here in time?" I forced myself to breathe slowly, to think. "Serena, listen to me. Nobody lied to you. We just see things differently. But you're safe. I'm safe. Everything is fine." My voice felt too calm for the panic ravaging my brain, but I needed her to pause, even for 1 second. Her expression flickered. Confusion, pain, rage. I couldn't tell. "You ruined everything," she whispered. The moment she looked down, I bolted. I sprinted around the island, shoved past her shoulder, and yanked open the front door. She screamed, this guttural animal sound, and grabbed at my shirt, but I tore free and stumbled into the hallway. I slammed the door shut behind me. Hands shaking so violently I almost dropped my phone, I dialed 911. When I finally dared to look through the peephole, she wasn't there. The apartment was silent. By the time police arrived, Serena had vanished. Only one thing remained. Melted makeup footprints smeared across my kitchen tiles, leading from the doorway to the spot where she'd lifted the knife. A reminder that she had been real. Too real. The days after the incident felt unreal, like someone had taken my life, shaken it hard, and dropped it back into place with all the pieces slightly misaligned. I barely slept. Every noise outside my door sounded like footsteps. Every shadow near the parking lot made my stomach twist. The police took my statement, searched my apartment, filed the report. They told me they'd keep an eye out, which I'm pretty sure meant nothing beyond paperwork. Without her real name, workplace, or anything verifiable, she was essentially a ghost, one who had walked right into my home and studied my life like homework. Friends told me to move. I said I would. I still haven't. Partly because moving feels like admitting she won, and partly because I'm afraid of what I might find missing or moved or changed once I start packing. On the third day, I noticed the first sign she'd been back, or had planned to be. My spare apartment key was gone, the one I kept in a dish near the entryway. At first, I told myself it had to be somewhere else. Maybe I misplaced it. But the dish was otherwise untouched. The dust still settled around its edges. Only the key was missing. I sat on the floor, hands trembling, trying to force my brain to think rationally. But there was only one explanation. She'd taken it that night. Or she'd come back while I slept. Maybe both. I changed every lock the same day. Installed cameras, bought new curtains, stayed with a friend for 2 nights. But even with all that, I felt her presence everywhere. In the quiet hum of the hallway lights, in the parking lot shadows, in the way my phone buzzed even when no one was calling. Sometimes, late at night, I can still hear her voice. "You don't get to walk away." And I keep wondering if she's waiting for a moment when I leave a window cracked open or forget to deadbolt the door, because the key is still missing. And she knows my building. And she's patient. Too patient. Trusting someone new doesn't mean ignoring red flags. Safety should never take a back seat to politeness, attraction, or the fear of overreacting. If someone's behavior feels off, listen to your instincts. They're often recognizing danger long before your mind allows you to. Your well-being is worth more than someone's feelings, expectations, or demands. When you've lived in Kuala Lumpur long enough, you learn the monsoon season doesn't just bring thunderstorms. It brings a certain heaviness in the air, a weight that presses down on your chest before the first drop even falls. I'd always been sensitive to that heaviness. Still, when Tariq messaged me that afternoon asking if I wanted to meet up, I said yes before giving myself time to overthink it. We'd talked for a few weeks. He claimed to be a medical student focusing on mental health care, soft-spoken, thoughtful, full of long messages about empathy and human connection. He didn't flirt aggressively, he didn't push, and after a string of dates with men who treated attention like a performance, his gentleness felt like a relief. But as I sat in the back of a grab car, watching sheets of rain slam against the windshield like someone trying to break through, the heaviness crept back in. The driver eyed me through the mirror. "You sure about this stop? Road's half flooded." I nodded. "Yeah, someone's waiting for me." He didn't look convinced, but he dropped me off. I climbed out, holding my umbrella sideways against the wind. The building Tariq lived in looked older than it had in the pictures he'd sent. Peeling paint, dim stairwell lights, a smell of damp concrete. I climbed the narrow stairs, pausing to knock on a few neighbors' doors, when I realized the unit numbers were barely visible. Nobody answered. I heard footsteps inside some of the units, whispering, then silence. Something inside me tightened. But the rain roared, and I told myself I was being dramatic. People kept to themselves during storms. That was all. Then I reached Tariq's door, and for the first time, I wished I'd listened to that heaviness. When he opened the door, I recognized his eyes, but nothing else. Tariq looked older, maybe late 30s, with sunken cheeks and a slow, unsettling smile that didn't match the careful, earnest tone of his messages. His apartment was dim, lit only by a flickering desk lamp. "You made it," he said, stepping aside. "Most people cancel in weather like this." I hesitated. "Your profile pictures?" He laughed softly. "Lighting can do wonders." The moment I stepped inside, the smell hit me. Chemicals. Sharp, medicinal. Not the scent of cleaning products. Something colder, too sterile for a place this run down. He closed the door behind us with a click that echoed louder than the storm outside. "You look nervous," he said. "Don't be. You match my criteria perfectly." "Criteria?" I repeated. He gestured toward his laptop, open on a cluttered table. Dozens of folders lined the desktop, each labeled with women's names. Some I recognized from apps I'd used. Others were strangers. He clicked one. My stomach dropped. It was me. Screenshots of our chats, my profile photos, notes beneath each one. Detailed notes. Fear of enclosed spaces, sensitive to tone, prefers honesty but avoids conflict. I felt something inside me lock up. Why would you keep this?" He shrugged. "Patterns matter. People don't know themselves as well as they think they do." I moved toward the door, testing the knob casually. It didn't budge. "The power's out," he said coolly. "Storm must have hit a line. We're stuck here until it settles." I swallowed hard, then opened the door. He leaned in, voice dropping. "Let's not ruin the night, Aisha. I invited you because you're interesting. You're scared, but you stayed. That tells me everything." Lightning cracked outside, and for the first time I felt truly trapped. When you're afraid, the world sharpens in strange ways. The hum of the storm grew louder. The shadows in the room seemed to thicken. Tariq moved around casually, as though we were just two people waiting out the weather. "Sit," he said gently, pointing to a torn couch. "I'm fine standing." He watched me with an expression I couldn't read, part amusement, part calculation. "You know," he said, "everyone lies online. I just prefer to see who people really are." I scanned the room, noting everything I had missed at first glance. A duffel bag shoved under the bed with clothing spilling out, women's clothing. A drawer left slightly open, metal glinting inside. Restraints, not the recreational kind. These had thick straps and buckles. My chest went cold. "That stuff doesn't belong to me," he said softly. "If that's what you're thinking." His tone was calm, too calm. I took a slow step back. "Tariq, unlock the door." "You're trembling," he said. "That means we're getting somewhere real." Another flash of lightning erupted outside. In the split-second burst of light, I saw something behind a bookshelf, something small, red, and blinking. I stared harder. A camcorder, recording. My pulse hammered. "You're filming this?" He tilted his head. "Memories are important." I reached for my phone. Gone. My bag lay near the door, emptied. "You won't need that," he said. I backed toward the window, second story, water rushing below, a high drop into floodwater that churned like a river. "Sit down, Aisha," he commanded quietly. I shook my head, and the moment he stepped toward me, I made my choice. I don't remember deciding to jump. I remember my heart slamming in my ears, the window frame rough under my palms, Tariq's footsteps pounding behind me. But the moment itself was instinct, pure and unfiltered. I shoved the window open, rain blasting my face like needles. The alley below was flooded nearly knee-deep, water surging like something alive. A fall could break a bone, the current could drag me, but staying wasn't an option. "Aisha!" he shouted. "Stop!" I didn't. I didn't even look back. I swung my leg over the sill, gripping the frame with both hands. The storm roared around me. My entire body trembled, but the fear of staying outweighed the fear of falling. "Don't do this," he warned. "You'll drown." "Better than staying here," I choked out. He lunged. I pushed off. The world dropped out from under me. Rain, wind, and darkness swallowed everything. I hit the water hard, shockingly cold despite the heat of the night. The current knocked the air out of me, sending me spinning. I fought to stand, grabbing at anything solid until my hand caught the corner of a trash bin. I dragged myself up, coughing, shaking uncontrollably. Behind me, the window slammed shut. I didn't look to see if he was watching. I just ran, through the flooded alley, down the street, toward the nearest lit storefront. I burst inside, drenched and gasping. The store clerk stared at me, mouth open. "Miss, are you hurt?" "Call the police," I said, voice cracking. "Please." He didn't ask questions. He dialed immediately, and for the first time since stepping into Tariq's apartment, I let myself cry. The police searched the apartment an hour later. I sat wrapped in a blanket in the back of a patrol car, still shivering despite the warm night air. My mind replayed everything. The files, the restraints, the camcorder, his voice saying I matched his criteria. When the officers returned, their expressions told me enough. "He's gone," one said. "What do you mean, gone?" I asked. The apartment was abandoned. Lights on, door unlocked. No sign of him. They told me what they did find. Belongings from at least half a dozen women. Jewelry, phone cases, a printed list of names, notes, even a few student IDs, none matching the name Tariq used online. But not him, not a trace. The storm had swallowed his footprints, washed away his escape route, turned the alley into a current that erased everything except the fear he left behind. For days afterward, I kept expecting someone to knock on my door. For weeks, I felt watched whenever I walked alone. I changed my number, deleted my apps, moved to a different building with brighter hallways and neighbors who actually answered their doors. Sometimes I still wake up at night imagining the sound of a window sliding open. Sometimes I wonder how many other nights he waited for someone to walk into that apartment willingly. But mostly, I think about how close I came to becoming another folder on his desktop, another name, another set of notes, and how the storm, violent, wild, unpredictable, became the only witness to the moment I escaped a man who studied fear like it was a science. Your instincts are not paranoia, they're protection. In a world where danger can wear the face of kindness, trust your intuition, set boundaries, and never apologize for choosing your safety over someone else's expectations. Long before any of this happened, before the police reports, the packed boxes, and the way my stomach still clenches when someone stands too close behind me, I used to believe I could spot danger. My mother used to say I was overly cautious, the kind of kid who double-checked door locks and crossed the street if a stranger stared too long. Maybe that's why my breakup hit me harder than it should have. When you spend years believing someone is safe, someone you let in past all your internal alarms, losing them leaves you feeling foolish, like your instincts were broken all along. So when Evan left, I spiraled a little. Not dramatically, no throwing things or drunken phone calls, but in quieter ways. I slept too much, ate too little, and pretended the hollow in my chest was just a phase. My best friend, Tori, finally said, "You need a distraction. Something stupid, something temporary. Download a dating app. At least talk to real human beings again." I laughed it off until one particularly empty Thursday night when silence felt heavier than embarrassment. So I downloaded Meet Up Now, a popular dating app. I didn't want love, just noise, something to break up the static in my brain. My profile was lazy. 2 photos, a line about liking iced lattes year-round, and a half-hearted joke about my dog Jasper being more interesting than me. Matches trickled in, most of them predictable "hey beautiful" messages or men holding fish in their profile photos for reasons I still don't understand. Then there was Adrian. His profile was painfully average, a blurry picture, a short bio about liking to cook, and a line that simply said, "Here to meet someone genuine." No red flags, no flashy charm, just plain, safe-looking. I didn't know then that the most dangerous people are often the ones who blend in the easiest. The first message from Adrian came the next morning. "Hope your run with Jasper went well. Looks like a great day for it." I frowned. I had taken Jasper for a run, but I hadn't mentioned it anywhere. Not online, not in the app, not in a message. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe he guessed. Dog owners run with their dogs. Not exactly psychic. I replied 5 hours later with a casual, "Yeah, it was nice." Nothing more. But the next day, he messaged again, right after I'd spilled coffee on my sleeve in line at Brew and Bean. "Rough morning? Coffee accidents are the worst." I stared at my screen, confused. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't texted anyone. I hadn't even taken a picture. I typed, "Lucky guess?" He replied, "Just a feeling." That's when a thin thread of unease tugged at me, but I told myself not to be dramatic. Dating apps were awkward. Conversations were weird. It didn't have to mean anything. But it kept happening. When I wore a yellow shirt to walk Jasper on Wednesday, he messaged, "That color looks great on you. Very summery." Thursday afternoon, "New book? You've got good taste." The book had been in my tote bag, its spine barely visible, the cover tucked against my side. By Friday, the coincidences stacked too neatly to ignore. I told Tori everything. "Maybe he's looking at your social media," she suggested. "I don't post that much." "Maybe someone you know told him." "No one even knows I'm talking to him." "Well, maybe he's guessing." I wanted her to be right. I wanted any explanation that didn't involve the prickling fear rising under my skin. But fear has a voice of its own, and mine whispered, "Something is wrong." I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. The turning point came on a quiet Sunday morning. I took Jasper to the park, our usual route along the pond, where older couples fed ducks and college kids sprawled on picnic tables pretending to study. I hadn't messaged Adrian in days, hoping the silence would make him lose interest. As Jasper tugged me toward his favorite tree, a stranger on a bench looked up and smiled warmly. "Beautiful weather," he said, lifting a hand. "Just like you said earlier." I blinked at him. "Sorry. Do I know you?" He smiled again, polite and harmless looking. "You mentioned the weather this morning. Online." My stomach dropped. I hadn't posted anything. Not a photo. Not a status. I hadn't said a word to anyone. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. "I think you have me confused with someone else." But he shook his head. "No," Adrian said. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I yanked Jasper's leash and walked away fast, pulse thundering in my ears. The park suddenly felt too open, too exposed. Every person seemed like they might be watching me. Every window felt like an eye. I called Tori as soon as I reached my car. "He's following me," I said. "Or someone is." "Where are you?" she asked. "In my car, at the park. Some guy repeated something I never posted." "Lena, that's not normal. You need to report him." I wanted to. I really did. But a part of me still clung to the hope that this was all some bizarre misunderstanding. That hope died that night. At 1:13 a.m., my phone lit up with a message from Adrian. "Your bedroom curtains look cozy when they're open like that." I hadn't touched them. I hadn't opened them. They were slightly parted from earlier in the day, just enough to let in the streetlight glow. He shouldn't have been able to know that, unless he could see me, unless he had already been watching. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed with every light in the apartment turned on, Jasper curled against my feet, trembling like he could sense my fear. Every creak made my pulse spike. Every shadow looked like a man standing just out of view. By morning, I knew I had to go to the police. The officer at the front desk listened patiently while I explained everything. Adrian's messages, the stranger at the park, the comment about my curtains. He didn't look surprised. In fact, he looked tired, like he'd heard versions of my story before. "We'll need screenshots, the username, anything you have," he said. "I have everything saved," I told him. "I didn't delete anything." 2 detectives came in to take a statement. They asked questions I hadn't even considered. Did I notice cars idling on my street? Did I ever feel followed? Did anyone new move into my building recently? Then came the part that chilled me the most. Do you live on the 2nd floor? Yes. And your apartment faces the courtyard? Yes. Why? That layout gives clear sight lines from several units and 2 adjacent buildings. The idea of unknown windows pointing at mine made my skin crawl. We'll request a warrant to identify the account, one detective said. But based on what you've described, he may be local, possibly even nearby. Nearby? I whispered. Like, in my building? It's a possibility. By the time I drove home, I felt exposed, like air itself had eyes. I didn't go inside. I packed a quick bag and drove straight to Tori's house. 2 days later, the detectives called. They had found him. And he wasn't just Adrian. He had 4 fake names, 5 profiles, and a documented history of stalking women in my neighborhood. He lived 3 buildings away from mine. I wasn't paranoid. I was a target. The week that followed was an emotional blur. Fear, relief, fury, and a crushing sense of violation that didn't fade, even after the police told me he'd been detained. They found notebooks in his apartment, pages describing women he'd matched with, schedules, habits, routes they walked, clothes they wore, what time lights went off in their bedrooms. There was a section about me, not long, not as detailed as some others, I was told, but enough to make my entire body go cold when the detective said, "He watched you for about 2 months." 2 months. 2 months of him being close enough to see my curtains, close enough to see the book in my bag, close enough that he knew when I left for work and when I returned. My apartment felt poisoned after that. Even stepping inside to grab my remaining things made my skin crawl. I broke the lease, paid the penalty, and found a new place across town with gated entry, security cameras, and windows facing an interior hallway instead of open air. I bought thicker curtains, the blackout kind hotel rooms use, and I double-checked the locks every night, sometimes twice. Tori kept telling me, "It's over, he's gone, you're safe now." I wanted to believe her, I still do, but safety feels different now, less like a guarantee and more like a fragile illusion. Sometimes when I'm walking Jasper, I catch someone glancing my direction and feel a jolt of fear before logic catches up. Sometimes a message notification makes my pulse spike. Sometimes I dream of a shadow standing outside my old window, watching. But I'm here, I'm healing, and I'm paying attention the way I always should have. Because danger isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks ordinary, sometimes it smiles, sometimes it matches with you on a dating app. And sometimes, it's already closer than you think. Always trust your instincts. When something feels off, when a message is too specific, a person too interested, a coincidence too perfect, listen to that inner alarm. Safety isn't paranoia, and speaking up early can prevent harm. Your intuition exists to protect you. Don't silence it. December breakups hit harder. There's something about cold air and empty couches that makes loneliness echo louder. When my ex ended things 2 days after Thanksgiving, the world around me still smelled like cinnamon and holiday optimism, but I felt stripped bare. I wasn't looking for love anymore. I just wanted attention, distraction, proof that someone out there thought I mattered. So I downloaded a site I swear I'd never touch. One specifically for older, professional men looking for discreet companionship. That kind of description used to make me roll my eyes. But grief changes your standards. The site felt like stepping into a dimly lit bar, polished, quiet, full of men who typed like they hadn't been nervous in years. That's how I met Miles, a lawyer in his 40s, well-spoken, generous, and mature in a way that felt comforting. He didn't flirt excessively or compliment me too fast. Instead, he asked about my work, my winter plans, my stupid habit of collecting vintage mugs. He made me feel seen, not ogled. After a week of chatting, he suggested meeting halfway, at a lodge outside Chicago with a fireplace and tall windows overlooking a frozen lake. "It'll be quiet," he said on the phone. Just a simple evening, no pressure. And I believed him. I needed to believe someone again. When I pulled into the snowy parking lot that afternoon, everything looked peaceful. Smoke curled from the chimney, lights glowed warm against the frost, and inside I spotted Miles immediately, handsome, smiling, waving me over. For the first time in months, I felt almost safe. I didn't realize safety was already behind me. What walked toward us next would take that feeling away forever. The date started normally, almost sweetly. Miles ordered me a hot toddy, joked that I looked like I'd stepped out of a winter commercial, and asked if the roads had been bad. I laughed too easily, but it felt good to relax. We were mid-conversation about Chicago pizza when the lodge doors opened and a gust of wind swept in, carrying snowflakes like scattered glitter. A woman stepped inside, tall, elegant, wearing a long white winter coat that made her look carved from ice. Her hair was dark and pinned neatly, but snowy flakes clung to it like tiny crystals. She scanned the room, then her eyes landed on us. "Miles," she said, walking directly toward our table. I expected shock, panic, maybe denial, but Miles didn't even turn around fully. His shoulders just sank. "Brianna," he murmured, barely audible. "Please stay calm." The woman sat down across from us without waiting to be offered a seat. She crossed her legs, folded her gloved hands, and smiled in a way that wasn't a smile at all. "I'm Elise," she said softly. "I'm Miles's wife." My stomach dropped. I didn't know," I managed. "I wouldn't have." "I know," Elise said gently. "This isn't about you. Not really." Miles rubbed his forehead. "Elise, please." "Quiet," she said, not raising her voice, yet shutting him down instantly. Then she turned toward me and slid her phone across the table. On it were pictures of me, leaving my apartment, carrying groceries, walking into a cafe near my job. My heartbeat thudded painfully in my ears. "How did you—" "I've been monitoring his secret accounts for months," she said. "Every woman, every message, every lie." Her voice never trembled. That scared me more than yelling ever could. Elise kept her eyes on me as though she were studying a specimen, calm, clinical, terrifying in her composure. "I'm not angry with you, Brianna," she said. "I just want you to understand what he does. How he throws away real commitment like it's nothing." She glanced at Miles. "And he thinks I won't respond." Miles exhaled shakily. "Elise, please. You're making a scene." "No," she said, her lips barely moving. "I'm making a point." Then she reached into her coat. Reflexively, I tensed, but she pulled out only a thin pair of leather gloves and smoothed them on. Her movements were graceful, even elegant. "Brianna," she said, "would you walk outside with me for a moment? I want to show you something." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "No," I whispered. "I don't think I should." Her smile faltered, only a sliver, but enough to reveal a crack beneath the ice. "I'm asking nicely," she said. "Please." Miles suddenly stood. "I need to—" His voice cracked. "I need to make a call." And just like that, he slipped away, darting toward the lobby, disappearing behind the corner like he was fleeing a burning building. Coward. I watched him vanish, and Elise watched me watching him. "He does that," she murmured. "Runs, leaves the mess for someone else to clean." "I don't want any part of this," I said. My voice shook. "I didn't know he was married. I'm sorry, I'll leave. You'll never see me again." "That's not enough," she replied, almost tenderly. "You deserve to see what he's capable of, what I'm capable of." Then she reached back into her coat. This time she pulled out something small and metallic, a thin, sharp ice chisel. "I use it for art," she said softly. "But art can be repurposed." My breath froze inside me. The room shifted. The warm lodge, the crackling fireplace, all of it dimmed behind a single horrifying fact. I was trapped between a blizzard and a woman holding a chisel. "Elise," I whispered, raising my hands. "Please, I'm not your enemy." "I know," she said calmly. "But you're part of his pattern. You're one of the reasons he thinks he can get away with anything. And patterns need to be erased." She stood, her boots crunching slightly on the floor. "Walk with me. Now." "No," I said firmly, even though my knees shook. "Someone will see. Staff, guests." Her expression sharpened. "They can't see the parking lot in this storm. And Miles is already gone. He always leaves women behind." I glanced toward the lobby. No sign of him. No help anywhere. Elise took a step closer. The chisel glinted under the amber lights. "Brianna, don't make me escalate." My pulse hammered. I scanned the room. The lodge had only a handful of patrons, all tucked away behind tall chairs or reading by the fire. No one noticing us. "I'm going to the restroom," I blurted, forcing calm. "I'm not running. I just need 1 minute." She stared at me, reading me like a file she had memorized. Finally, she nodded once. 1 minute. I moved slowly, walking past tables, past the bar, into the hallway. The second I turned the corner, I ran. Hard, heart pounding. I ducked into a service corridor, past mop buckets and stacked linens. Behind me, footsteps echoed. "Brianna." Elise's voice floated down the hallway, steady, controlled. "Come out. The storm is getting worse. You won't get far." I pressed myself against a wall, breath shaking, listening to the howl of wind outside and the unmistakable click of her boots drawing closer. I moved quietly, praying she couldn't hear my heartbeat. The service corridor led toward the kitchen, where voices buzzed. 2 staff members prepping for the dinner crowd. Safety. Witnesses. I pushed through the door and froze. The windows were whitewashed by snow, thick, swirling. Visibility nearly zero. The storm had swallowed the world. I stepped inside. "Please," I whispered to the staff. "There's a woman. She's armed. She's following me." Their eyes widened. One grabbed the phone. The other moved in front of me like a human shield. But before she could dial, a shadow filled the doorway. Elise. Her white coat looked ghost-like against the metal fixtures. Her hair was damp with melted snow, and the chisel hung loosely in her hand. "Brianna," she said gently, "you're making this worse." "Stay where you are," one of the cooks barked. Elise tilted her head, amused. "You don't understand. This is between us." The cook stepped closer. "Ma'am, drop the weapon." For the first time, her composure cracked. "He humiliated me," she hissed. "He lied. He cheated again and again, and she pointed the chisel at me. She made it possible. "No," I said, voice trembling. "He used both of us." Something in her face broke then. Not rage, but grief, deep and raw. And in that fragile second, the cook tackled her. The chisel skittered across the floor, clanging loudly. Elise screamed, not in anger, but in a kind of wounded despair. The police arrived 15 minutes later, trudging through snow that swallowed their boots. They took her away while she sobbed Miles's name. Miles never returned. I left the lodge with shaking hands and a fear of white coats that still clings to me. Snow used to mean quiet. Now it means danger hiding in plain sight. Desperation can blind us to danger, but boundaries and self-respect are what keep us safe. Never let loneliness justify ignoring red flags, and never believe someone else's lies are your burden to carry. Protect your peace, even in the quietest seasons.
Breakups hurt differently in winter. Maybe it's the way the cold gets into your bones, or how the early darkness makes every empty room feel like a vacuum. For me, the weeks after my breakup were a blur of bad sleep, cold takeout, and those moments where your chest feels like it's folding inward. I wasn't looking for romance. I wasn't even looking for a rebound. I just wanted someone who wouldn't get tired of hearing me say, "I don't know how to feel anymore." That was the frame of mind I was in when I downloaded a dating app again, something I promised myself I'd never do this soon. I matched with a man calling himself Dr. Rowan. His profile wasn't flirty, it was comforting. Therapist, trauma specialist, happy to listen. His messages were long, calm, reassuring, like a warm hand on a shivering shoulder. "You don't need to go through this alone," he wrote on the second day. "People forget that pain needs witnesses." I didn't know therapists weren't supposed to offer free sessions over dating apps. I didn't know real therapists didn't speak in poetic phrases designed to stick to you. I was just lonely enough to believe him. When I asked for a video call, he apologized, said his camera was broken, that he hated his old laptop anyway, that he'd get a new one soon. The excuse was so ordinary it felt believable. Then, one evening, when my anxiety wouldn't let me sleep, he suggested we meet for an informal therapeutic check-in at his home. "I promise it'll help," he said. And God, I needed help, so I ignored every red flag waving in my face and agreed. That was the last decision I made without fear. Rowan lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, one of those cul-de-sacs where everyone's holiday decorations are perfectly symmetrical and nothing bad looks like it could happen. His house was small, cozy from the outside, a little outdated, but harmless. Inside was another story. The first thing I noticed were the drawings. Dozens of them. Crayon scrawls taped along the hallway, scattered on the coffee table, pushed into the corners. None of them were messy like a child's doodles. Every single one showed the same thing. A tall figure, long limbs, no eyes. At first, I tried to laugh it off. "Did your kids make these?" He smiled too slowly. "They're not mine. They're collected." Collected? Who collects children's drawings of a faceless man? Still, I followed him into his living room, where he motioned toward an armchair. "You look tired," he said. "Tea." The tea tasted metallic, like I'd bitten my tongue. I set the cup down quickly. Rowan watched me with a kind of clinical intensity. "You share so much online," he said softly. "People don't realize how much of their inner world leaks out." "What does that mean?" I asked, trying to sound calm. He didn't answer. Instead, he stood and walked to a wall partially hidden behind a curtain. When he pulled the curtain aside, my stomach dropped. There were printed screenshots of my messages with him, pictures from my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my comments on a public forum years ago. Maps, timelines, notes, all arranged like case files. Rowan turned to me, voice warm but wrong. "I've been studying your patterns, Camila. You came to me already broken. Let me finish what I started." And then I knew I needed to get out. I stood up slowly, trying not to make sudden movements. "Rowan," I said, forcing a shaky smile, "I really appreciate your time, but I should go. I didn't know this would be so intense." He stepped between me and the front door, hands clasped behind his back. "Sit down," he said gently. "I'm fine," I insisted. "We can schedule something another time." "No," he said. "You're avoiding the session. You always avoid the hard parts. This is why you need me." My throat tightened. "I don't think this is therapy." He tilted his head. "Therapy is guidance, structure, observation." He gestured to the wall of files. "I've done all three." The air felt heavy, sticky. I scanned the room, windows too small, furniture too solid to move quietly, hallway too narrow. "I want to leave," I said firmly. "Camila," he murmured, "don't ruin this." Then he reached for my arm, not violently but possessively, like he believed he had the right. I jerked away, stumbling into a small table. The teacup rattled. His expression shifted, still calm, but colder. "If you keep resisting, I'll have to control the situation. Let me go," I said, louder now. He locked the deadbolt behind him with a click. "Sit down," my pulse thundered. I backed up, grabbing the nearest object, a wooden picture frame. He moved toward me, slow and deliberate. "You won't be able to break the pattern alone." My hand tightened on the frame. "Get away from me." He kept walking. I knew then that talking wouldn't save me. Politeness wouldn't save me. He had built a cage out of kindness and waited for me to step inside. I needed to break something, either him or the house. So I aimed for the window. Everything happened fast and slow at the same time. I swung the wooden frame as hard as I could, slamming it into the nearest window. Glass exploded outward in a violent spray, and freezing air rushed into the room. Rowan lunged. "Camila!" I scrambled toward the broken opening, cutting my hands on the shards. Pain flared, but fear pushed me forward. He grabbed my jacket, I kicked backward blindly, connecting with his shin. He grunted, loosening his grip just enough. "Stop," he yelled. "You don't understand what I'm trying to do for you." "For me?" I screamed. "You drugged me, you liar." I pulled myself through the window frame, slicing my palm open. Snow soaked instantly into my knees as I landed outside. The cold bit harder than any cut, but I didn't stop. I crawled, then stumbled to my feet, running across the yard. Behind me, I heard him climbing out after me, crunching snow, muttering curses. "Camila, you're overreacting." I sprinted toward the street, waving frantically at a car passing by. It slowed, thank God, and the driver rolled down his window, eyes widening at the sight of my bloody hands. "Please," I gasped. "Call the police. He's not who he says he is." The man nodded and grabbed his phone. By the time Rowan reached the driveway, sirens were already echoing faintly in the distance. He froze, looking at me with an unreadable expression. Not anger, not fear, disappointment, as if I had failed him. 2 police cars arrived minutes later. Rowan didn't resist, just lifted his hands like he'd been expecting it all along, and maybe he had. I wrapped my arms around myself, shaking, wondering how close I'd come to being another file pinned on his wall. I spent the next hour inside a police car, wrapped in a thermal blanket, while officers searched Rowan's house. One of them came back pale-faced. "He's not a therapist," she told me gently. "He doesn't even have a medical license. The name Rowan isn't real either. He's used at least 4 different identities in the last 3 years." My stomach tightened. "How many others were there?" "We're still looking," she said. "But what you did, breaking the window that saved your life." I stared at my bandaged hands. I didn't feel brave. I felt stupid, gullible, like I'd volunteered to be prey. Later, they let me walk through parts of the house again, accompanied by an officer. I saw rooms I hadn't noticed, one filled with bins of printed screenshots, receipts, records of strangers, victims, people who had confided in him, trusted him, leaned on the illusion he crafted. He studied all of them, the officer said. New names, new accounts. He mirrored their language, built rapport, classic predatory behavior. I felt sick. "What about the children's drawings?" "We're not sure yet," she answered. But they didn't come from kids he knew. He downloaded most of them from online forums. Some were redrawings he made himself. The tall man with no eyes. The faceless watcher. The more I thought about it, the more I realized the drawings weren't about a monster he feared. They were about a monster he admired. I stepped outside into the cold night, breathing in air that didn't taste metallic. Air that was mine. For weeks afterward, I jumped whenever my phone buzzed. I deleted every profile, every account that made me vulnerable. And slowly, very slowly, I began to reclaim the parts of myself I had handed over so easily. Because trust shouldn't be given to anyone who asks for it. Loneliness makes us vulnerable, but desperation should never replace caution. Real help never demands secrecy, control, or dependency. Protect your privacy, trust your instincts, and remember, anyone who truly wants to heal you won't need to trap you to keep you close. I've never been the kind of guy who believes in love at first swipe. I'm cautious, maybe too cautious, especially after a string of lukewarm dates and one relationship that burned out faster than a cheap candle. But loneliness has a way of softening your skepticism. By the time fall rolled in, leaves crisping, evenings dimming earlier, I found myself back on an upscale dating app my coworker swore by. That's where I met Lena. Her profile felt curated. Every photo professional. Every caption articulate. No cliches, no filters. She looked like the kind of person who knew exactly who she was and exactly how to present it. Too flawless, maybe, but loneliness makes you willing to overlook things. We messaged for 2 weeks. Light banter at first, then deeper conversations, or what I thought were conversations looking back. She mostly asked questions, lots of them, about my work, my hobbies, my family. I didn't think much of it until she suggested we meet at a small forest-side cafe on the edge of town. "It's quiet," she said. "Perfect for first impressions." When I pulled up that evening, the cafe looked postcard-worthy, string lights glowing against the dark line of trees. But the parking lot was nearly empty. Only one person stood outside, a teenage boy in a hoodie, staring straight at me. As I walked toward the entrance, He stepped forward and whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Then he backed away quickly, disappearing around the side of the building like a skittish cat. I tried to shake it off. Teenagers are weird. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he mistook me for someone else. But even as I stepped inside, I felt the first unmistakable tug of dread. I had barely sat down when the bell above the cafe door chimed again. A woman walked in, beautiful, absolutely, but not the woman from the pictures. Her hair was darker, her height different, her smile too sharp. She spotted me immediately. "Jordan?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from me before I could answer. "Yeah, but sorry, are you Lena's friend?" She smirked. "I'm filling in." Lena got shy. I blinked. Shy? After 2 weeks of talking? She likes to observe before she engages, the woman said casually, as if it were a normal explanation. "She's here, though, nearby." Something cold pressed against the base of my spine. "I think I'll just... No." The woman's voice softened, but in a way that made the hairs on my arms stand up. "You should stay. We know you like this place. You mentioned you used to come here after visiting your sister at the hospital." My blood iced. I never told Lena anything about my sister, not a word. "And that park you loved as a kid," she continued, tapping her nails on the table. "You used to hide under the red slide when you got scared. Cute." My throat tightened. "How do you know that?" "You recycle your passwords," she said with a shrug. "Most people do." Before I could react, the teenage boy reappeared beside the table like he had materialized out of nowhere. He leaned close and whispered, trembling, "Don't go with her. She takes men into the woods. None come back." The woman's smile stretched, slow and unnatural, like her face wasn't used to forming it. "Ignore him. He's dramatic." "Please," the boy said, eyes wide. "Run." That was the moment my instincts finally stopped being polite. I stood up. "I'm leaving," I said, moving past the woman before she could block me. "This isn't what I signed up for." She didn't grab me. She didn't shout. She simply stood, tilting her head like she was studying an exhibit. "Jordan," she murmured, "you're making this harder than it needs to be." I pushed open the cafe door, cold air slapping my face. The teenage boy caught my arm. "Your car," he hissed. "Now, don't look back." I didn't respond, I just ran. The gravel in the parking lot crunched beneath my shoes as I fumbled for my keys. My breath came out in harsh clouds, the kind that felt like they scraped the inside of my lungs. I managed to unlock the door, and then I heard it, bare feet pounding the ground. Fast, faster than human. I turned. The woman was sprinting toward me with terrifying speed, her hair whipping behind her like black ribbons. Her feet were bloody from gravel, but she didn't seem to feel it. She wore no coat, no shoes, no expression, except a wide, gleeful smile that looked carved onto her face. "Jordan," she called out, voice lilting like a nursery rhyme. "Don't make me chase you." I dove into the car, slamming the door and locking it just as her hand slapped the window. The glass shuddered under her palm. She said, leaning down so her eyes met mine. "Too bright, too focused. You're quick. I like that." I started the engine with shaking hands, flooring the gas. Gravel spat out behind me. She didn't follow. She simply stood there, barefoot, smiling. But as the headlights washed over her, I saw something glint in her hand, something metallic, and she was still smiling when darkness swallowed her. I didn't slow down until I was miles away, my heart still trying to punch its way out of my chest. The road blurred. The forest passed in streaks of black. Every few seconds I checked the rear view, half expecting to see her sprinting after me like some impossible nightmare. By the time I reached a gas station, my hands were still shaking too badly to pump gas. I went inside instead, leaning against a refrigerator door while trying to catch my breath. The teenage boy's words echoed in my skull. "She's been luring different men for months. They never come back." Who was she? What was she? And what had I almost walked into? I pulled out my phone to delete the app immediately, but just before I did, a notification popped up. New match. Lena. I froze. She was still there, still active, still matching. I opened the app. Her profile picture had changed. It wasn't her face anymore. It was mine. The same lighting, same jacket, same angle as the photo I used on my profile. Only the username had changed. Now it read, "Jordan. Looking to meet tonight." My stomach twisted. Someone or something had already taken my identity, scrubbed it clean, and repurposed it like a mask. The realization hit like ice. She didn't chase me because she wanted me. She chased me because she wanted to become me. I deleted the app, reset my passwords, reported my profile, but deep down, I knew none of that would matter. She'd do it again, and again, with someone else's face next time. As I drove home, the empty road stretching ahead, I checked the rear view one last time, just in case. The road was empty, but I didn't feel alone. The next morning, I went straight to the police. I told them everything everything that didn't sound supernatural. A woman using fake profiles, a teenager claiming men disappeared, someone accessing my accounts. The officer typed notes while sipping burnt coffee. "You have her real name?" he asked. "No," I said, frustrated. "All I have is the photos, the ones she stole," he sighed. "These dating app scammers are getting more sophisticated. They can replicate your entire online identity in minutes." But she wasn't normal, I insisted. She chased me barefoot. Glass didn't slow her down. And she knew things about me she shouldn't. Private things. The officer paused. "Did you reuse passwords anywhere?" I swallowed. "Yeah, variations. There you go," he said, leaning back. "I'm sure she wasn't literally chasing you. Fear exaggerates things. But identity theft? That part's real." I wanted to argue, but how could I? Saying she ran like an animal, smiling with blood on her feet, would only get me sent for an evaluation. As I stood to leave, the officer added, "We'll file it. Most likely she's part of a group. They target men with stable jobs, clean histories, easier to pass off as them. Do you ever find the men who go missing?" I asked quietly. His expression shifted. Not surprise, not confusion, resignation. "Not usually." Outside, fall leaves scraped across the pavement like tiny warning whispers. I checked behind me 3 times on the way to my car. That night, another notification buzzed on my phone. Even though I deleted the app, it still appeared. "New profile near you." A woman's face. Then it flickered, and my face appeared underneath. Someone was using me again, or maybe she never stopped. I've never been great at dating apps. I always convince myself I'm too busy, too picky, too something. But the truth was simpler. I hated feeling disposable. Still, after my 25th birthday passed with nothing but cupcakes and a string of pity texts, I downloaded a new dating app everyone on social media was buzzing about. The interface felt cleaner, the profiles less chaotic, and the people supposedly more serious. That's where I matched with Elias. His profile wasn't flashy. One photo of him holding an acoustic guitar, one of him sitting by a lake at sunset. He wrote that he was a soft-spoken musician who appreciates quiet places. Honestly, it felt refreshing after the usual gym selfies and hollow pickup lines. Our conversations were short but gentle. No pressure, no weird comments. He wrote things like, "Hope your day felt lighter than yesterday," and "I like that you're honest about not being a morning person." It was enough to make me feel seen without feeling crowded. He suggested we meet at a small outdoor cafe near the river, public enough to feel safe but peaceful enough to talk. The date itself was fine. Not fireworks, not terrible. Fine. The unsettling part was that Elias barely smiled and kept glancing over my shoulder. Every few minutes, his eyes would dart past me like he was checking for someone. I asked if everything was okay. "Yeah," he said softly. "Just noticing things." The way he said it made my stomach tighten, though I couldn't explain why. After that day, he grew distant. Short replies, delayed messages, then nothing. I should have let it end. But loneliness is persuasive, and attention is addictive. And so, when he asked to pick me up 2 weeks later, I said yes against every instinct, screaming not to. He pulled up right outside my apartment building, a modest silver sedan idling beneath a flickering street lamp. I hesitated on the curb, wondering why he hadn't gotten out to greet me. But when I opened the passenger door, he didn't even turn his head. No hello. No smile. Just Elias staring straight ahead, jaw locked tight, both hands gripping the wheel like he expected it to break loose. Hey?" I said, easing into the seat. Nothing. He blinked once slowly, then shifted the car into drive. "Elias? You okay?" He swallowed, throat tight. His voice sounded wrong. Not soft-spoken, flat, mechanical. Streetlights passed over us in rhythmic flashes as we left the familiar parts of downtown behind. The air in the car felt too still, too heavy. I tried small talk. So, where are we going? Somewhere quiet, he said. His tone carried no warmth. It was like he was reciting a line someone had written for him. My phone buzzed, and when I reached for it, his hand snapped toward me, not touching, just twitching inches away as if he almost grabbed my wrist. Don't, he whispered. Not yet. A cold ripple slid down my spine. Something was off, way off. I shifted in my seat, trying to subtly glance behind me. The rear seat looked empty, but something felt wrong, like the air wasn't moving naturally. Then, as we passed under a bright streetlight, I saw it. A shadow, slow, controlled breathing. Someone crouched low behind my seat. My chest constricted. My heartbeat roared in my ears. Every instinct screamed at once. Elias didn't seem scared of the person behind me. He seemed scared of me noticing. I need to get out, I whispered. He didn't respond. And that silence was my confirmation that I didn't have time to wait for the car to stop. I don't consider myself brave. Cautious, yes. Reactive, sometimes. Brave, not really. But in that moment, heart hammering, hands shaking, breath trapped in my lungs, I knew staying put meant surrendering to whatever plan they had for me. I reached for the door handle. Elias whispered sharply, "Don't." His voice wasn't tired anymore. It was urgent. It was frightened. "Amira," he said, eyes still locked forward. "Just wait." Wait for what? For him to pull off somewhere secluded? For the man behind me to sit up? The car slowed at a yellow light. Barely a pause, but enough. I yanked the handle, shoved the door open, and threw myself out. My foot hit the pavement awkwardly, sending a shock through my leg, but adrenaline carried me forward. I stumbled, caught myself, and sprinted toward the pharmacy on the corner. Behind me, I heard shouting, two voices overlapping. "Go, get her," but I didn't look back. Not once. I burst through the pharmacy doors, gasping, startling a cashier mid-scan. "Call the police," I yelled. Someone's following me." Before she could respond, the sedan screeched away from the curb, taillights disappearing into the night. Both men inside. No hesitation. No attempt to come after me once I reached the building. They wanted privacy, not a scene. I collapsed against an aisle end cap, my whole body shaking uncontrollably. The manager rushed to lock the doors while the cashier dialed 911. When the police arrived, I struggled to explain just how close it felt, how intentional, how coordinated. Elias wasn't a nervous musician. He wasn't even alone. He was part of something, and I'd barely gotten out with my life. The officers took me to the station for a statement. It felt surreal sitting under harsh fluorescent lights, recounting the details with a voice that kept cracking mid-sentence. A female officer handed me water and spoke gently. "You're not our first case involving this man," she said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "We've had 3 women report similar encounters. All matched with him on dating apps. All were picked up by him. All noticed a second man hiding in the car. Were they hurt?" I asked. Her silence said enough. The lead detective joined us, a heavy folder in his hands. His real name isn't Elias. He uses at least 6 different identities. Sometimes he plays the talker. Sometimes he plays the driver. But he's never working alone. I felt nauseous. "Why me? Why any of us?" "Opportunity," the detective said. "They target women who seem isolated, emotionally vulnerable, or open to spontaneous plans. You weren't singled out, you were selected." The thought made my skin crawl. "They didn't try to force you back into the car?" he continued. "No. They sped off as soon as I got inside the store." "That fits," he said. "They don't take risks. The moment a target acts unpredictably, they abort the attempt. A failed attempt. That's all I'd been to them. A near miss." The detective leaned back. "We're working with cybercrime to track their accounts, but they're smart. They rotate phones, cars, profiles. Nothing connects for long. So they're still out there?" "Yes." The word hung in the air like a verdict. I left the station with my body exhausted, and my brain locked in replay Elias's white knuckles, the breathing behind me, the rushed whispers, and the terrifying truth that I had no idea how many times I'd almost ignored the danger. For days after, I couldn't sleep without checking my door lock 3 times. I stopped walking alone at night. I deleted every dating app on my phone and wiped my profiles clean. Friends tried to reassure me. "You got away," they said. "That's what matters." But getting away didn't feel like victory. It felt like I had been inches from becoming a headline. Missing local woman, Last seen getting into a silver sedan. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured Elias's face on that first date the way he kept looking behind me. Not because he was nervous about us, because someone else was there, someone who expected him to bring me along. One night, unable to sleep, I replayed every conversation we'd had on the app, every subtle question, every gentle prompt for information. It wasn't flirting, it was data collection. I realized how easily I had shrugged off red flags simply because they weren't dramatic, unsmiling. Maybe he was shy. Short messages? Maybe he was busy. Avoiding personal details? Maybe he was private. But sometimes quiet isn't gentle. Sometimes it's calculated. The detective called a week later. "We're still investigating," he said. "If anything changes, we'll let you know." I thanked him, hung up, and finally made a decision. No more pickup dates. No more meeting strangers without my own transportation. No more giving the benefit of the doubt to people who haven't earned it. Caution isn't paranoia. Caution is survival. And the next time I sense danger, no matter how small, I'm listening. Because the truth is simple. I didn't escape because I was smart. I escaped because I was lucky. And I'm not willing to rely on luck again. Trust your instincts. Silence and subtle discomfort are warnings, not inconveniences. In the world of online dating, your safety must come before someone else's feelings. Meet on your terms, protect your information, and never ignore the signals your body recognizes before your mind does. I've always been the kind of guy who kept dating apps muted in a folder on my phone somewhere between unused productivity apps and the grocery list I never update. Work kept me busy, and honestly, I liked it that way. But loneliness creeps in quietly, especially when your friends start getting engaged one by one like a slow-moving landslide. That's when I matched with Sienna. Her profile looked like something straight out of a magazine, sun flare shots, immaculate poses, captions that were just the right mix of witty and warm, influencer-level polished. Normally, I'd swipe left, assuming she'd never actually talk to me. But something in her smile felt less rehearsed, more human, so I swiped right. To my shock, she matched instantly and messaged first. "You look like someone who actually enjoys rooftop sunsets. Want to prove me right?" And somehow, I said yes. Our first date, an easy rooftop dinner, felt natural in a way that surprised me. We laughed about childhood stories. She teased me for picking the safest dish on the menu. I teased her for her obsession with filming her drinks from every angle. The second date at a craft cocktail bar felt just as smooth. She listened, she asked questions, she brushed my hand like she meant it. For once, I thought maybe I'd stumbled into something real. So when she invited me to a small friends gathering at her loft, I didn't think twice. I should have. I showed up 10 minutes early, polite early, not creepy early. Her loft sat on the 4th floor of a renovated warehouse, the kind of place where people drink $8 matcha and talk about lighting energy. The hallway was dim, lit by string lights instead of actual bulbs. I chalked it up to aesthetic choices. Influencers always made moody, mysterious, photogenic. When Sienna opened the door, she looked stunning, casual but intentional. She hugged me like she meant it. "You're early," she grinned. "Good. You get the full tour." Her loft was odd, not messy, not dirty, just staged. Tripods stood in corners like metal spiders. LED panels bounced harsh colors along the walls. Decorations looked less like a small gathering setup and more like a bizarre photo shoot. "Your friends doing a project or something?" I joked. She didn't answer right away. Something like that. I should have caught the tone. But she grabbed my hand and led me in, so I followed. That's when I noticed the strangers. Dozens of them, scattered around the loft, all holding phones pointed straight at me, whispering, giggling, nudging each other. My stomach dropped. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Sienna gave me a practiced, bright smile. Not the one from the rooftop. This one was for the camera. "Relax, Alex. It's just a little fun." The room snickered. Something inside me said, asterisk, asterisk, run, asterisk, asterisk, but I was already too far in. Before I could process anything, someone shouted, "Ask him if he'll do the dance." Another voice chimed in, "Tell him about the challenge. Make him do it." Sienna leaned closer, lowering her voice but not her smile. "Just go along with it. They love reactions." "Reactions?" I asked. "To what?" She held up her phone, recording. "To you. To all of this." My throat tightened. The strangers began circling, their cameras like glowing insects hovering around a light. Someone pushed a ridiculous hat onto my head. Another person shoved a prop microphone in my hand. Everyone was laughing, not with me, but at me. "Sienna," I said firmly. "What is this?" "It's content," she said simply. "People love this stuff. Authentic reactions, the awkwardness, the surprise. You'll go viral, trust me." I stared at her, horrified. "You invited me here to humiliate me?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, don't be dramatic. It's harmless." A guy behind me snorted. "Harmless? Wait till he sees the live stream comments." My heart hammered faster. Live stream? They were live. I felt heat crawl up my neck, the kind that comes from embarrassment so sharp it numbs. I imagined thousands of people watching me, laughing in real time, dissecting every twitch of my face. I shook my head. "I'm not doing this." Sienna frowned, irritated. "Then at least stay until we're done." "Nope," I said, stepping back. "I'm leaving." The crowd booed. I didn't care. I shoved past them, heading for the door. I had to get out before the humiliation became permanent. The moment I reached the hallway, my entire body felt like it exhaled. The muffled laughter from inside her loft bled through the walls, but at least I wasn't part of the spectacle anymore. I pressed the elevator button repeatedly, like that would make it arrive faster. The doors finally opened, and I stepped inside, hands shaking. My reflection in the shiny metal wall looked pale and exhausted. My phone buzzed. "Sienna, seriously? You made that so awkward." Then another. "If you'd just relaxed, it would have been funny." Another. "You're being sensitive." I turned my phone off. My chest felt tight in a way I didn't want to name. Humiliation isn't just embarrassment, it's betrayal wearing a pretty smile. And I had walked right into it. On the street, the cold night air felt like salvation. I didn't look back at the windows of her building. I took the long way to my car just to clear my head. By the time I got home, the numbness had settled into something heavier. Not anger, not heartbreak, just disappointment. Disappointment in her, but also in myself for ignoring every little sign that didn't fit the curated picture I wanted her to be. For the next few days, I stayed offline. No apps, no notifications, no chance to see my name trending on some prank gone wrong video. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to feel like a person again, not content. It took me weeks to even consider talking to anyone new. I became the guy who triple checks locations, who refuses to meet strangers anywhere private, who insists on his own ride home. Some friends teased me for being overly cautious. Others said, "Well, she was an influencer. What did you expect?" That part, those assumptions made me feel worse. Because I didn't want to become someone who saw danger in every smile or deception, in every well-lit photo. I wanted to trust again, just responsibly. Eventually, I started going out more. Nothing dramatic, just coffee shops, bookstores, co-working spaces, places where people had faces, not filters, conversations where no one was filming. And little by little, I rebuilt confidence. I realized Sienna didn't ruin me. She just exposed a blind spot. I believed the version of her she wanted strangers to see, not the person she actually was. One afternoon, while deleting old files, I found a saved photo of her, the rooftop shot where she looked genuinely happy. I almost deleted it, but instead, I stared for a moment. It wasn't her I missed. It was the feeling of possibility. I closed the picture and finally deleted the dating app. I'm not anti-app, not anti-people, not anti-connection. I'm just pro-awareness now. You can give people a chance. Just don't give them your blind trust. Not everyone online is who they present themselves to be. Sometimes their charm is a performance, and you're the unwitting audience. Protect your dignity, your boundaries, and your safety. Trust slowly, verify environments, and always value your self-respect over someone else's curated persona.